Right.
Don't wait until you have an answer.
Right.
Yeah,
And then help them.
okay.
Yeah.
Just,
All right, let's go ahead and get started.
thank you for sharing.
Call the meeting to order of this evening. All righty, first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call?
Ms. Knable,
Here?
Ms. Dobson. Here. Mr. Earhart, Mr. Mitchell,
Here.
Mr. Aravalo.
Here.
Ms. Dominic,
Here.
Mr. Sly,
Here.
Ms. Squire, Mr. Morse.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Very good, thank you very much. Okay, first item is introduction, no appointment. Mr. Morse, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for volunteering. Is there somebody else that's gonna speak on that? Pat, are you speaking on that, or is it just me?
Just you. We
Okay.
just wanted to introduce Chuck to everybody.
Great, well, Chuck, thank you. You've been to a few meetings on the other side of the podium,
Yep.
and so now you get to find out all the good stuff.
I look forward to it, and I'm also excited about not having a 3-minute limit.
That's right, that's right. The only bad thing is you don't get to do any presentation.
Right.
And if you want.
Oh, Pat said, there you go. Pat said you can if you want.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, moving on. Approval of agenda. Do we have any changes?
We do not.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as stands. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, moving on to citizen participation. It's opportunity for anybody in the audience to speak if they would like. Any takers? All right, we'll move on then. Moving on to formal commission action. Item number 1 is approval of minutes from the April 4th, 2024 meeting.
The motion to approve the minutes of April 4th, 2024.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the April 4th meeting. Start the voting on the left.
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 6-0-1. Moving on to site application SP 24-2, Woodland Crossing subdivision entrance sign.
Good evening. We have received an application from Woodland Crossing LLC for a new subdivision entrance monument sign at 201st and Woodland Road. The preliminary plat for this subdivision, which was approved in 2019, did not identify specifics for an entrance sign. The applicant determined the type, size, and location for the sign, with staff indicating that it did need planning commission approval. The regulations, the sign regulations for subdivision entrance markers are subject to approval by you guys with respect to size, location, and appearance and design. If approved, the proposed sign detail below would be located within the right-of-way of Woodland Road and 201st. As done with other developments, the city of Spring Hill would enter into an agreement with Woodland Crossing LLC that the sign area must be maintained by the homeowners association. The sign structure and the landscape would be located within right-of-way and existing easement. The structure is concrete block with a stone veneer finish. The face will have gray metal artwork behind raised lettering identifying the subdivision name. The structure height is 10 foot. And there would be a variety of landscape, which is shown as part of the sign structure for welcoming visual effect at the entrance. It's staff's opinion the structure will not create a vision obstruction for motorists, but will create a pleasurable vision enhancement to the area of the subdivision. On the attached, you can see the location where they're planning on putting it. And there's a suggested motion there for you. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Do we assume that it's going to look like the other entrance structure? Or is that incorrect?
I think it's shown up there what it's gonna look like on the site plan. I think it will look like it.
That's not what the other one looks like.
Yeah, the other one's horizontal
Yeah.
and this one's vertical.
A couple things is, there's a little there's a little limited space in that area. And that this is, they wanna show it as a newer area, but we have the existing down there where the pool and everything is at.
Yeah.
So no, this will be a lot smaller structure. The stone and brick and the plate on it, it's very simple, but it is to give some sort of appeal to that entrance there.
I guess the only comment I have is when I drove by the subdivision, it has, is it Oakwood off of 215th? And it has the OW, and I had to drive back to the first one just to remember what the name was because it said OW everywhere. I don't know if that matters or not, but just for marking reasons, just the WC on it. It doesn't necessarily designate
Say.
who they are, or, but.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't have any requirements for it to,
Well, we have any requirements you want.
well,
I mean, if you wanted to say Oakwood on it.
Woodland Crossing.
Or, I mean, sorry, or you could say.
Or Oakwood.
I don't know. If you wanted to spell out Woodland Crossings, then, that would be a comment. We'd go back and say, the planning commission feels that it's better to have the full name there. If you want it to be a certain color, certain stone, we can, it is the decision of you guys on that because it will be placed in right of way. It, one thing about it, it does do for us, on there is it does eliminate the city as to having to take care of these, island areas. A good one's Brookwood Farms. They have a really nice and larger area. And I would imagine over the years to come, we will see longer and longer ones come into play with turn lanes and things like that. But yes, you can recommend, or you can say that it must spell out Woodland Crossings, so.
Yeah, I guess the other to me is, I don't really care if it's smaller, but I think it ought to be similar in stone or whatever they used on the other one. Just to, people know it's the same subdivision, because the other one is clear around the bend, I mean.
Yes, that's correct, and yes, you can, you say, we want it to match the, aesthetics and all need to match the existing as close as they can. It was put up so long ago, I doubt they could even find that type of stone, but I understand what you're saying. And that is something else that we can say. We can just about say anything here, on this, because it is utilization of right-of-way.
I think it kind of is important to have the name on it, because people look for the name of a subdivision when they're coming to visit folks, and almost every subdivision here has the name on it, on the sign. So to me, I feel like they should put the name on it, Woodland Crossing.
And if you would address the aesthetic values as to match the other sign or not as we go through it. I mean, I know it'll be all put into one,
Doesn't
or
the
we
sign
hope
say
it's
Woodland
into
Ridge
one.
though?
I'm sorry,
Doesn't the other sign say Woodland Ridge?
Woodland Crossing, I think it does say Woodland Crossing.
It says Woodland Ridge. I'm just looking at Google Maps.
Isn't that a different subdivision?
That's a different subdivision.
Am I looking at the wrong one?
Yeah, this is the
Okay,
one off
sorry.
199th and Woodland,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one.
The other one,
to the west of Brookwood.
Okay, sorry.
So I have one question, maybe a couple comments. The question is, since it is in the right of way, it does look like it's set back pretty far, but is that far enough away from the existing road that that road can be widened without them having to move the monument?
Yes.
Okay, I figured. Okay, I figured.
Yes.
My opinion is that 10 feet is pretty tall, but in this location, I think it's okay, because there's really nothing around it, and the railroad tracks is on the other side. So contextually, I think it's fine, and I'm sure that they'll do nice landscaping around it. And personally, I probably would give some deference to the developer on their design, because this is their branding, and it's in their interest to make it nice and to make it consistent, so that, because this is the entrance monument and the welcome into that neighborhood. So it's in their interest to make it nice. I mean, otherwise, it's not a nice doormat. It's not a good welcome for them. The other question I had is, I'm assuming that there is no lighting on this sign, including
There is
landscape
not.
lighting?
Right, so what they did talk, I just happened to speak to them, this week, and they did talk about being able to, place like Christmas lights on it, LED through, solar. So, and if they did have any lighting that was going to project up on it, obviously we'll have to take a look at it, but it would all be solar. So trying
So it
to.
wouldn't be that bright in that case.
No, and trying to, not have all these electric meters everywhere and all, they're, so, yes, but they talked about all solar.
Thank you.
This is 2012.
I don't know that I would deny it just for the, cause it doesn't necessarily match the front entrance, but, I think it would be in the best interest, like everybody has said, for it to say Woodland Crossing. I know that when we recently, approved the one for Woodland Ridge, that is in kind of a different subdivision. I know, Pat, you said that that was their intention, that they wanted it to be different, so maybe for some odd reason they want this to be different. But, I think it looks classy enough. It doesn't match the other one, but if that's the look they're going for, I don't have an issue with it.
Okay, so I'm straightened around now. Sorry, I was all confused.
That's okay.
Personally, it's their entrance to their subdivision. I don't see what difference it makes whether they say WC or Woodland Crossing. I mean, lots of companies are not going to just the initials to go forward with it. So I don't personally have a problem with it just saying WC. But
That doesn't mean water closet to you?
I'm not English, so no, it does not.
I mean, right down the river is, there's Wolf Creek too. I
Huh?
mean, so
True.
if somebody's looking for Wolf Creek subdivision, they see just WC.
Yeah, and that's spelled out, the estates of Wolf Creek, I'm assuming.
maybe they can put like a plaque underneath the WC, so they don't have
This
to
is-
change the entire
This is
sign.
not Wolf Creek.
I don't know.
Not to sound
Little letter.
dumb, but how many people don't actually use their GPS to find something anyway?
I know.
I mean, I get that people read the signs that are in front of them, but they usually believe their phone more than what their signs in front of them say.
No, I agree with you guys. I don't think that there's any reason that I can necessarily deny them putting aesthetically what sign they want.
So it kind of sounds like that, if we could just get a consensus on two things. One would be, before the vote, you know, let's just talk this out. The, Woodland Crossings, to actually spell out Woodland Crossings. And then to possibly match the type of stone and finish and all maybe that's on the other one. So I would think we'd just take kind of one at a time and just run down. And I mean, we were doing that, but to take a stand so that someone can make a motion. That's,
I like it. I think
or we can just make a motion. Either way.
I'm good with whichever. Whatever they want, it's their subdivisions. I don't ever look at the subdivision signs personally. I look at the street signs, so I know where I'm going, but. You know, the only issue I would have if it was long and you can't see, but it's tall, so. Yeah. I like it.
I'm good with it. On both ends.
I'm not.
So looking at it, they're considering Woodland Road as being more of a secondary entrance. The way that I see it is they're presenting that as a secondary entrance, not the primary entrance, because they're not using the full name.
Correct.
That would be classified as a secondary type entrance.
But in the future, Woodland is going to be the main thoroughfare.
Right, so, but you have to remember also that we may, in the future, that may be right in, right out only. I have some examples that I'll show later on this evening here of some streets, and because I know we were having a little trouble on focusing on what maybe a thoroughfare will be through there and all, or through the whole community. So it could be a possibility that it'll be right in, right out only, which my guess is, to be honest with you, it will be right in, right out, because there'll probably be a median in between 2 lanes and 2 lanes in the future. So you are correct. And that was brought up also by engineering, I'm sorry.
Which in that case, the WC seems to make sense if it's a secondary entrance. But I'm okay with the WC.
that also their logo, the WC?
Yes.
Is that the company logo?
Apparently so, yes.
There's gonna be a street sign that goes in whatever street that is? Oh, okay.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I motion to, move to approve application SP -24-2 for Woodland Crossing subdivision entrance sign as presented in the staff report.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Start the voting on the left.
aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 6-1. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Discussion item, critical infrastructure landscape design criteria.
Right, so there is no information given on this because it's really fairly simple. And what we're talking about is Evergy, gas company, any type of critical infrastructure, water, sewer, whatever the case may be. Instead of putting all these trees up and not allowing them to, what I want to call, box in their facility or protect their facility, maybe by razor wire, this day and age, especially our energy. One thing that, and we've been in discussions with Evergy, and one thing that they are having trouble with, and no one hears about it, never meets the news or anything, is, you know, someone will take a piece of chain and throw it. And it just wipes out all the stuff. The reason you usually don't hear about it is what they're talking about is they have redundancy. This one shuts down, the other one back feeds. So you may have a blink, you may have 5 minutes of power outage, but you never know what happened. And so under our regulations, it's really tough for, and I'll just continue to use Evergy. There's a fine for being late. Do you know that? Can you pay it now, or do you want to be billed?
Told you I was coming.
I don't. Well, she didn't know. Don't let her fool you. So, anyway, Evergy's the main focus that we've been talking about on some of the areas that are right against the community that they would want to zone into, or annex into, I'm sorry, the community. But they also want to be able to put around their facilities tall walls. Now, they would make them out of block and face them, or put split block on them. And we would still look at that, or the commission would still look at those items. But overall, what we'd like to do is change just a simple thing in the landscaping that says the critical infrastructures, they do not have to meet these requirements set out in the landscaping, but they still have to have planning commission approval. That makes it that there is still a control factor. And Evergy, I'm talking with them, and they're not talking about just. As a matter of fact, they're getting away from chain link fence and things like that. They really want to put up a fortress, basically, around it. Now, I know we've done this, and people don't realize it. If you drive into Quick Trip and you see a nice little building right there to the west, the parking lot, that's our lift station. So we've completely enclosed it in so that we will not have those troubles. And that's kind of what it's starting to get to, where protection of critical facilities. And that's really the gist of it. That's what we're looking to do.
But how does removing the existing landscaping requirement assist in their ability to protect that infrastructure?
Okay, so some things are, they can't have razor wire. And actually, you take a 40-acre piece and they come in to do any improvements to it, the landscaping code says you have to landscape the whole 40 acres. And, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, they're not really complaining about money. It is just protecting their infrastructure. And some of their plans that they come up with and all, the truth of the matter is it's through grants, federal government, and things like that pay for this. So you'll still have control, and even if they put up the structure like we did there, hey, 3/4 of an acre around it needs to be grass, instead of the whole 40 acres. So that's how it really affects them.
What would be considered critical infrastructure?
Anything that you drink, water, sewer, electric, that sometimes there'll be a big switch hub for all the fiber to go in, and then it sends it up to, 1800 Road, Main up there, Kansas City. That's mostly where all of our fiber initiates, is up there in one building. But we haven't really seen too much of the switch gearing stuff. That's probably the wrong terminology this day and age, but, so you may have, like this wastewater plant. We built a new wastewater plant, and most likely it'll be out in the middle of nowhere. And the code absolutely does not allow razor wire. And those are things that I think that we should be able to look at and approve or deny.
But it's gonna come before the planning commission anyway, can't we look at it at that point? Whether
We,
it's in,
but we have no what I'm getting at right now, there's no exception in it. And that's why right. Yeah, they have no exception. So Right, so if they brought it into our department, and if you remember, I told you not very long ago that sometimes 2 out of 3, sometimes half will never hit your desk because there's something wrong. So we wouldn't even bring it to you. So in this case, it's strictly critical infrastructure type deals, and yes, it will come to you anyway. But there's also an element of it knowing that that they want to reduce the landscaping, they want to reduce the trees in some of that. And we're gonna have probably protection walls and stuff.
So I deal with critical infrastructure a lot. And
If yours
You can say
goes
tele-
down though,
you, what?
go ahead, I'm
You
sorry.
can say a telephone pole is critical infrastructure.
But, and you are correct, but you know, in the scope of it, we have to have reality.
No, no,
know,
I'm
and-
just
and-
trying to
no, I understand.
I'm just trying to
No,
understand the
you are
complexity of what
exactly
you're asking
correct.
for, because
You're,
there's,
you're right, but we
There's a
don't
lot
bring,
to that.
we don't bring telephone poles to this body.
right,
So all we're really talking about is facilities. And so they're, you know, where you would have a facility that would work on. Another example is, you know, we're really fairly unprotected right up the street here on our underground storage. And you can look, we have a generator just sitting out there because if the city was to go in and start changing that, you know, we want to do it so that it protects it better in a manner without all the landscaping and things like that. I'm not saying we do it wrong because I think we did a really good job at Quick Trip. A lot of people don't even realize that that's a lift station. So it's more geared towards Troy, the facility type.
I'm still mulling over what all the facility types are, because there's a lot.
There are major facilities though. I mean, you know, we're not going to get
So
into
are we gonna say major facilities? And then-
If you want to say major facilities, that's fine. I would think though that this board would be able to look at it and make a reasonable thought pattern on it as to, is this a major facility or not? And it'd be very easy, you just say, we don't classify this as needing to reduce the landscape requirements. So let's just say it's just simply a small office that warehouses a generator for maybe telephone or something. And you look at it and say, no way, you know, you put your office up, but you're gonna do all your landscaping. You know, I think that where it really comes into play, because the one station that we're looking at with Evergy right now sits on 40 acres. Our code would require them to landscape 40 acres. And really not even know what the use is, and there's no questions asked. It has to be landscaped. And that's where we want to have the flexibility to say, look, it's critical infrastructure, we're gonna take it to planning commission, and you guys would be able to make a determination.
So if they were to present us with a tall wall around that
Oh,
40
yeah,
acres, is that what you're?
Or whatever they come up with, that's correct. It would be in
allow
part
the
of,
criteria to say that the planning commission can make an exception,
on critical
or, I'm
infrastructure.
sorry, yeah.
We can deny whatever they bring to us.
That's correct,
We can
yes.
change whatever they bring to us. Yeah. This just allows to protect the critical infrastructure.
And it allows us to bring it to you without all the landscape requirements. You know, they can draw up what they feel is necessary for it, and we can bring it to you, and then we can work through it.
I guess the only thing that I'm concerned about is you put in a new sewer line, you call it critical infrastructure. And then you say you're not, so as long as it's coming before the planning commission, I guess I don't really have an issue with it. But if you put in a new sewer line, you could say that that's critical infrastructure. But yet you still want them to do landscaping on it, to put it back to the way it was before.
Well, no, okay, so you're trying to mix a whole bunch of stuff together. Nope. Just
I'm sorry.
anytime.
I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to understand.
Anytime we go in and put in a sewer line,
Mm-hmm.
the law reads, we are supposed to take it back to the state it was in.
Okay,
Okay, so, but we're running along there with a sewer line, and let's say we need a relief valve area. or some valving. We bring the valves up and we put a fence around it, we're required to landscape that.
Okay,
Well, maybe it's out in the middle of nowhere, which we do have a couple of them out there, and nowadays we need to protect that facility better. So we put a shell around it and we raise a wire on top of a fence. Those are the type of issues that we want to be able to bring to planning commission and address. And you know, if you don't feel like that it's a good area for razor wire, or you say, okay, this will be great until their house is built around it, so that there will be some eye that may spot it, you know, a destruction of it, or people won't be more likely to destruct it. So those are just what we're trying to do.
So may I ask, are you
can.
trying to put, special or specific writing into something that says that this isn't required? Is this just for Evergy? This is for any major?
Any major infrastructure project. Wastewater plants, water plants, water towers, yeah.
My only concern, and maybe I'm not quite understanding, where this is coming, is a lot of times when we do that and then we see something come before us, it's always like, well, they met the requirements. And you're not requiring them to have landscaping on 40 acres. So you can't really tell them you want landscaping on 40 acres. You still have to approve it. So I just don't want to get us
No.
in that situation where we're saying, well, we no longer require this.
All this says is that they could possibly not use all the landscaping requirements, but it is up to the planning commission. If they were to bring something on the 40 acres and didn't have the trees that were required or the landscaping or all, we can't even bring it to you. We won't, because it's in, you know, that's just the way it is. So all we're trying to do is solve a problem of several different things. One, protecting that, and I keep going back to razor wire because that is one of the conditions that if it's out in the middle of nowhere, that's what everybody's gonna want. The city is going to want that on their new sewer plant. It's just unfortunate that anymore you have to go to those extents. So you will still have control. If you want the whole 40 acres to be landscaped, then Evergy or us or whatever the case is says, oh, if that's what we have to do, or we find a new location or something, you know.
And at the same time, if they wanted to build a 10-foot brick wall around it with razor wire, planning commission could still require, we want evergreens around that.
That's correct.
To hide it.
That is
We
correct.
don't want to see the razor wire. There's an example on a property, I think it's Bob Garver's property off of.
Yes,
Woodland.
that is a perfect example.
Okay. And what is that infrastructure in the back? Is that like a pump station?
It's a lift station,
Oh, it's a lift station.
and
Okay.
we've had vandalism there on the generator.
So that's like I'm gonna guess an 80-acre property. And so there's a lift station on the very back of it. And it's out of sight. I mean, it's well out of sight. And so that's something that, you know, you obviously want to protect physically and through remote monitoring, ideally, so that you know if someone's tampering with it. Luckily today with, you know, wireless networks and such, you can, you know, put cameras on things, you can put IoT sensors so that you can know if there's presence of someone trespassing.
Yes,
So there's other ways.
but damage is already done by then.
Yeah,
You know, that's the whole thing
true.
that Evergy's saying. You know, heck, they say, we take pictures of the people, but the damage is usually done.
right.
I
So
didn't.
I can appreciate, like in this example, if the landscaping requirements as they're written today were to require him to landscape 80 acres in order to put a fence around, you know, that lift station, doesn't seem realistic.
well, he
And-
wouldn't have to, but he wouldn't have to landscape 80 acres around if he's just putting in a lift station.
If they do not plat it, then yes, that is how the code's written.
Okay,
That they should put the landscaping around it.
would that come before the planning commission though? Because if they're putting in a
It-
lift station, it would just have a preliminary plat that we would see.
Right, well, and,
I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
putting
you're-
it back to what you're telling me. You're saying that
Correct.
we would have to bring it before us, and he'd have to do 80 acres, and I don't see that he has to do 80 acres. That's
so the structure would come before you because it's a site plan.
okay.
And under the site plan and under the code, yes, if it is not a platted off piece of property or a lot on its own, the entire area must be landscaped.
What was the reasoning behind no razor wire? And
I don't know.
what, so I'm just thinking it must have been a safety issue.
Oh, I'm sure it was some safety issue.
And that was a number of years back.
In the sixties, I'm sure.
So is this, I mean, I'm sorry for being late, but
No,
I
yeah.
told you. I
Well,
was
you
gonna
just
be late.
started. You were here when we got going.
Is this something that we need to address now so that Evergy can come forward or any others could come forward? Or is
No,
this
we
something
can
that we
wait.
can do on the comp plan revision?
We can, well, it won't be in the comp plan. We will have to make a code revision.
It's a
And it would
code.
have to be an ordinance.
Okay.
And one of the reasons we're looking at it is we are getting ready to update all the building codes and all.
Okay.
So that while we're in there, we can do it all at one time.
I missed where that.
There'll be a few others coming here before long also. We'll trickle them in to you so that, now, this is one that we didn't put many examples in because, you know, it's fairly black and white on, structures and things like that. The others that we'll be bringing before you will have examples in all of building. Well, a perfect example is, we will be bringing forth, the storm shelters in homes and stuff like that. And we'll have examples of that, just how far we want to push that. You know, does it have to meet FEMA 100% with the door and things like that? Because there are some modifications that other communities are doing. But back on this is just for critical infrastructure owned by public or private. And the private are utilities, AT&T, Evergy, and those are maybe Verizon, a few things like that, but most of it a lot of it will be Water One, Evergy, and the city.
Will they try and use the existing landscaping? If something's already there. Versus like
There's
all the
nothing,
trees.
so the one example that we're talking about that Evergy has been talking to, there's nothing there.
Oh.
It's in the county right now.
Like if the
And-
city was to do something, like out here,
Uh-huh.
try to leave what's there, already there, like trees or whatever, if they can get away.
Right, well, yes and no. There'll be a site plan that comes to you guys, probably the next meeting,
Right.
that deals with what is that? Jungle gym, what is it out here? An exercise area out here. And they're asking and proposing some things that will be taken down and all. So, yes and no. It just depends on what that's gonna be. And you'll see on this isn't gonna be any critical facility, but to answer your question, and that would also be up to the planning commission is, let's say there are some really, tall growth trees that are there. We can say, somewhere or another, you need to shift that building, you need to do something to salvage half of the trees or something, or maybe all of them, so.
I think I'm totally okay with protecting the true
And-
critical infrastructure. I think it's a reasonable request.
And we'll write it all up and get it to you, but we didn't want to spend the time on writing it if there was no, you just say, no, we're sticking to the landscape plan.
And I think it is good that we could bend that a little bit so they can protect the critical infrastructure versus spending hundreds of $1,000s in the middle of nowhere.
And that's our
just my
main
opinion,
concern.
But I think it's a reasonable request to change the code to that, because it's gonna come in front of us anyway. And if it's something silly, we just deny it.
So just to play devil's advocate, if you put this on 40 acres and then you build houses around it,
We could always say if.
no, we can't.
Yeah, we could put restrictions.
So what I was talking about earlier is
I'm just
that,
trying to understand what he's asking for here.
so what
because-
I was talking about earlier is let's say we approve a site plan with razor wire. And they put 40 houses around it in that agreement, because we have an agreement for every site that would say, when houses are there, you have to take the razor wire down. Now, I don't think it's fair that when houses are there, you go back to the original landscaping. That's where we need to do our job and our due diligence that, well, maybe right now you better put a berm up, you know, right now, or you put it up when something's platted there. So we'd have to make sure that's in the agreements. They're, and I'm just speaking of Evergy right now. You know, they're more than willing. I can tell you another one right off of 199th, Water One's tower that was there, you know, right on that corner. You know, if they'd pushed it back a little bit, maybe screened a little bit along just 199th, you know, those are some things that might work.
I guess the only thing I'm confused about is how do you go back and require them to put more landscaping in after they're not doing anything and somebody else across the street's putting something in?
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Adding more landscaping like trees and things like that, that would not be on the table. The hardest thing that most of these designing infrastructure right now is you want a limited amount of landscape that is low profile. And that's what they're looking at. This is a protection measure to be able to see the entire site. You know, the police drive by, they can look at everything. So putting additional landscaping in, that's what I was just getting at, is maybe we look at it on some site and say, we know that this subdivision is going to build to this property line. Only thing you have to is you have to put a screening berm on this. Well, let's put up your block wall and your razor wire, and then we'll have a condition that maybe you have to take your razor wire down when the houses get built there. But we'll have to think ahead as far as some sort of protection measure at that point. And I think that we'll just maybe, I mean, if you want, think outside the box for more low profile type of landscaping and all. And this is totally up to you guys. If you want to change, fine. If you don't, it's not a problem.
I don't have the issue with the critical infrastructure, other than that I haven't heard a good definition for it yet. Just because of what I deal with, it's very difficult to define that.
I know.
So I guess until I see what you've written down.
I'm not gonna do it. Okay, we can define it. We can put down all kinds of stuff, and I'm gonna miss something. But we will be more than happy to define everything that we can think of in this. You know, very simple things like, you know, there's critical infrastructure is a fire hydrant. Well, that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at protection measures for site plan areas that house a large amount of the sewer plant or house a large amount of transformers, you know, lift station maybe. Well, no, lift station for sure. So yeah, we'll be more than happy to. You know, I would imagine that there's an argument for everything. I agree. You know,
I think that unfortunately, it's gonna come back to a case-by-case basis again.
that's correct.
And I think that when you're talking razor wire, there's also different types and styles of razor wire that you can go into defining. So maybe that's another consideration. If you're talking barrel wire, that may be one thing that works when there's 80 acres. It may be something that has to come down and it's just an electrical wire that goes, you know, a shock wire that
that's what I
goes
just
across
said,
versus
sure.
some type of, I mean, there's multiple kinds of razor wire.
We understand.
So maybe those are other things that can be looked at with that when housing comes in or on the height of the wall that we're trying to erect or protect whatever critical infrastructure.
Right.
I mean, it's not just defining the critical infrastructure, but it could potentially be defining what the protective measure is that's going in, whether it's barbed wire or.
That's what we're talking about.
But I mean, there's also,
There's different types of barbed wire.
Exactly.
Four
I mean,
barb, two barb.
Exactly. And there's the barrel wire, there's some really nasty barbed wire out there that, so I'm just saying, and maybe it needs to go to a shock wire instead of a barbed wire. I mean, barbed wire can be cut pretty easy. We all know that. I'm just saying that it's not just defining that, but it may also be trying to, if it's 80 acres, you could allow them to have something else
Okay,
more
so,
protective versus something that's gonna be next to a neighborhood that needs to be
yes, and
a
that's
better
why,
safety.
that's why we didn't write a whole bunch of stuff up. We left it as a gray area and left it as a planning commission decision.
You know, I think it,
And we can write everything up and we can talk to Evergy about what they're using in some areas right now. Critical's infrastructure, we can make a list of that. We'll be more than happy to do all that.
get opinions from that
if-
side of the table over
Well,
there.
I'm just saying, if that's what everyone wants us to do, we'll be more than happy to.
You got the four loudmouths over here now. We've got you.
I am a little intimidated that Commissioner Squire knows so much about razor wire.
I know.
It's called Farm Girl.
I just was we were trying to leave it open enough where the planning commission can honestly go in and say, we don't think razor wire is, I'm just using it as an example, razor wire is, really needed right here, you know? Or we wanna make sure that, the structure meets the type of materials
Exactly.
that is with the next subdivision, or in
Or the-
our case, Quick Trip,
Or what-
all those materials are the same.
Yes.
So, I don't think there's any way that we're gonna be able to write all that up to make it, where there's 100% control by the planning commission, except saying, all this has to be approved by the planning commission and there will be an agreement written up. But
I don't think that
we
there's a
can-
crystal ball that's gonna tell us if another housing development is gonna come by this 80 acres that we've already approved them to put up a certain kind of razor wire. So to your sentiment, I guess we have to take, if we were to put a provision in there that we would take exception. It doesn't sound like you're thinking we're gonna have a ton of applicants that
Oh,
are
no,
asking
there
to
won't
do
be.
this.
And this just came up because of Evergy wanting to protect a area that truthfully the city wants to annex in. And, you know, they have to be willing to annex in.
Okay. So this would give them at least to come in front of us and ask
correct.
us if it was allowed because it was included.
Well, and so this facility is going to have to be improved, meaning more stuff is gonna be put in there. Right now, it sits in the county. As it sits in the county, they can roll this equipment in, stack it up, yada, yada. What we're trying to do is work with Evergy in annexing in this area and have some controls on what the aesthetic values of this is gonna be.
Have they provided any examples of things that they've done in other areas?
Most of them are Kansas City, Kansas, and they're seriously just a block wall up with razor wire on top, you know?
That isn't exactly accurate because they're in Leawood and they're also in
Oh,
Overland
yeah,
Park. And so
no. But
this
they-
isn't just Kansas City, Kansas.
No,
So I'm not,
the question was asked, have they provided any examples?
okay.
Yes, Kansas City, Kansas are the examples that they provided. Now, yes, Leawood, Overland Park, all that. And I think, to be real honest with you, I think they've learned their lesson and said, we'll just stay in the county.
What do they use in Leawood and Overland Park for?
There are some facilities that have just walls, and one of them a block wall, and it looks nice. You know, there's no razor wire on those. They are a typical wall with a cap on it.
And I'm sure it's also a safety concern too, to try to keep people out of those locations.
Oh, sure.
But the fascinating thing, in my opinion, about critical infrastructure is that once it's walled off, you don't even see it anymore. Somehow it just starts to disappear.
Goes in with the land, or with the lay of it.
Yeah, and we're just also used to seeing it. That's why you don't see it after a while.
Yeah, but then if you just have a chain link fence around it, it's a total reminder all the time that it's there. And, yeah, we're just trying to look, we know that there will be development around this particular one. There's no doubt about it. And, you know, they've said, yeah, we'll annex in, but we want to be able to put walls up instead of going through all your landscape code and put trees every 30 foot to try and protect a facility. You know, they wanted to go to walls and stuff like that, so.
What about the ones that are already built currently? Because what is that on, across from Sonic? Or a little bit further down? Is that?
That's a right across from Sonic.
No,
Mid-Am?
it's kinda, no,
Oh, where are
um,
we at?
I don't know, is that South Street?
Mm-hmm.
It's kinda.
Oh, there's one down,
Yeah. What is
North
that? Is
Street.
that electric? Oh, yeah, it's North Avenue.
yeah. The
it's
one
just
I'm
like-
thinking of has a bunch of, TV antennas or something there. Yeah, I don't know.
Talking about the satellite dishes?
I think that's it,
Is that what those are?
yeah.
What location are they currently looking at?
It is Woodland, pretty close to the lift station there. It would back up to the development that would come off of Woodland, and also the development that comes off of 100, or, is that 207th? No, 183rd.
Okay, it's up there.
Is that on the northeast side or the northwest?
Be the I think it's northwest side.
Northwest.
There's a large tract of ground right there they own.
So it's on the other side of the tracks, between the tracks and the highway?
It's, no, it's to the east of the tracks.
Oh.
You can probably see it. Do you have it up there? Yeah.
Can the code be written, when, instead of writing out every critical infrastructure thing you can think of, can you write out in general what those terms, like what you were saying?
Yeah, it can be. It's up to you guys.
But not exclusive of those, that way you keep yourself open.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing. Critical infrastructure, give a couple of examples and say, like you said, similar to or something of that nature.
I know, this is a.
Right. And, you know, there's talk in the area of
Northwest.
police training, military training facilities and things of that nature. And we would have to make a determination if that's critical infrastructure, you know, where are we gonna allow them to fence all the way around, or are they just gonna have to put in a bunch of trees? You know,
No.
so, and some of those are, some Miami County, some Johnson County. There's quite a few, there's a production that, they're looking at right now. It's, I don't know what it does, to be honest with you, but it's something military production. They make one part,
Where do you say?
Fumble through it first.
you know, and those are things that you'll have to decide, you know, is that critical infrastructure? You know, I don't know.
Here's Woodland.
So there is that substation off of Ridgeview that's been there
That's
since
it.
2003.
Which,
So is this additional?
I can guarantee
I know that's not what we're talking.
I'm sorry,
about.
additional what?
Additional
I bet you.
Evergy infrastructure that would be located
Yes.
close to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because, there's just not enough power to meet the demand in this area. And as you can see, it backs up to the city, and will be eventually,
Don't like any of this.
there will be some sort of development up against there. And the administration did contact them on that, and this is what they came up with. Evergy's, and I don't wanna just put it on Evergy, Water One is talking about it as well, and we'll be talking about it with a new sewer plant, or you guys will be.
I'm not asking for all of the in-depth that you're talking about. I just would caution and ask that you be careful about, you know, you're saying that this code could have easily been written in the 60s, 70s. Let's just be cautious
But-
about it and make sure that all the people coming after you and this board understand what that code is intended for and not for all of the little projects that could be construed to fit in there.
No, we would put an example.
I know, I'm
Of
just-
what
I'm
critical
just-
infrastructure is,
I'm just saying,
but, yeah, I mean, there would
you know how
definitely-
people
and
can
you
twist words.
They can twist, well, the good thing is, we're leaving it 100% up to a vote by the planning commission, you know. Yeah, there's not gonna be anything brought to you that is gonna be crazy,
But my point,
cause we
Steve,
won't
is
let
if
it get to this point.
us understand it now, but 10 years or 20 years from now, it's not we.
It's gonna change in 20 years. It'll be lasers that you guys will be
That's
talking
true.
about.
That's,
You know,
that's,
is it okay if we shoot this person with a laser? I mean, seriously, you know,
Do that now.
so,
I'm giving you some pushback, but I'm really just
No.
trying to flesh out exactly what
Oh.
we're talking about because
exactly.
we don't know what we'll be dealing with in 20 years.
We don't, well, yeah, the good thing is, we're not talking about 20 years with this project.
Right, no, and I understand, that. and
And,
I really don't have an issue with protecting critical infrastructure, and I don't have an issue with giving variances to do that. I just want to make sure I understand exactly what we're talking about doing, and that's why I was asking.
right, and then on the flip side of it, I, really want to work with these critical infrastructures to make them, palatable with the community. Because it is the truth, they will not annex. And they'll just that's a lot of ground there. And before long, you've got all kinds of stuff there that you have absolutely no control about. So, and, Water One and AT&T and Verizon and everybody else, they're going to say, where is this that we can do in a reasonable fashion is what I'm getting at. So,
Pat, I really don't have a problem with it. The only thing, and I think you mentioned this. I guess anybody could call something,
sure, they'll try, but it won't get to you guys.
so the question is there I think you said it's hard to define.
Yeah, well, we'll give some
Or at least
examples.
some general
Right.
parameters.
We'll give some examples in the ordinance, and then also, well, I say it won't get to you guys, I don't know about 5 years down the road, or 3 years down the road, or 2 years down the road, or maybe next year. But being able to write it so that the planning commission has that power on that, at least that will give you where you can say, look, this really doesn't meet our mindset of critical infrastructure. I think really the only thing you're gonna see is you'll see some water stuff, you'll see electric, a lot of electric, I believe, because I didn't realize that we are very, very underserved right now in speaking with them. And there's gonna have to be some quick things constructed immediately. So, and then sewer plant and, stuff like that. If they, and, and it may be a case, and I'm serious, there's a lot of talk of a lot of police training facilities going in here, and there's some military stuff on production of military items. Those will just have to be decisions that we make. I think it overall, if we write it in a manner that it falls under the site plan, and it's mentioned in the landscaping as critical infrastructure, see site plan requirements, and then make sure that it has to come to this body from a site plan perspective, I think we can work with it pretty easily. I just don't want to A, B, C, D, unless you guys want me to. I'll be more than happy to write it all out. And then all of a sudden, Z comes in here and let's say, well, we're critical for the electric part of it because we make insulators. I don't know. So, I want to make sure that you have the control that I think you need on it. And we'll place it under the site plan. It will be mentioned in the landscape, but it will go under the site plan requirements. And we'll bring it all to you before We just wanted to have this discussion to see what direction, or if you even want to do it, you know.
I do
Either
think
way,
that
it
it'd
doesn't
be
matter to
important
us.
to ask, or at least to put in there that they try to keep as many of the natural resources as possible if this is presented.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that's no problem. Yep, I think it's pretty flat out there right now. I don't think there's much on that piece, that particular piece.
It's the northeast corner of Woodland and 183rd you're talking about that butts up to, is that Sycamore Estates?
It'd be somewhere in that area. That's just one of them they're talking
Right.
about. They're talking about another one down by Miami County as well that I don't think we'll get there in the next 10 years, but you know, you never know.
You might be surprised. Put in another Panasonic battery plant.
Yeah, nothing surprises me anymore, that's true. So if that's okay, we can write up just some general, we'll write up the ordinance and you can take a look at it. And, oops, I guess I need to figure out what I'm doing. That's all right, and then, you know, you can take a look at it and see what it pertains to and, you know. So the next little thing I want to talk about is comp plan. First, I wanted to go over some infrastructure stuff and show you, we were talking about the east-west streets. And we were talking about what do we define as the major corridors that are not truck traffic. It's pretty well understood, and I want to make sure of this as well, that the Planning Commission sees the truck traffic down to 68 Highway. Is that correct still?
Right.
Okay. So the truck traffic going east-west would be the 68 corridor area. Then the reason I'm showing this is because this is 159th and Quivira. This is 2012. The reason I show you this is the planning of this is important. I want to show you how fast this changed. So this is, damn, let me get my glasses on. Jesus. This is 2014. 2 years. That's all it took. That's why I really, really beg you guys. Let me see if I can move this over a little bit too.
Can you go back to the other one?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and move it over. That's what I was gonna try and do. How's that? And we really, well, let me move it up a little bit and I'll just align it. Boy, I'm gonna be fancy as heck. How about that? Jeez. But anyway, this is a 2-year change. This is straight off of Ames. On the far left-hand side, I actually took a snapshot of the years as well. But this is a 2-year change, and this is why I really, really would like to know 199th Street, 207th, 223rd, because as we know the development that is being looked at in the area, it can change quick. The road structures can change immediately. So from 2012 to 14, they got all the right-of-way acquisition. They tore all of it out and had new streets in. That fast.
I thought it took longer to get all that right away than that.
Well, just because you don't see it there doesn't mean it's not right away acquired.
Yeah.
I've
And-
said that,
and-
I've heard it.
and there's-
Yeah, they probably already have.
Yeah, there's possibility that they had a lot of this right away already. But guess why? Because under their comp, exactly, their comp plan said, this is what 159th is gonna be like. So when I, bring this up for comp plan purposes, it could be and is a reality. 199th Street could be just like the one on the left within a 2-year period. And we want to make sure that from that point, what is your vision on what streets you would like to see major east-west corridors? Is it 207th, 223rd, I'm imagining, 215th, 183rd, 175th, I'm imagining.
So what is customary, every mile, every half mile?
In this area, it's every mile.
So that would be, since 199th is seems to be the main one right now, then the next mile down will be 207th,
Yes.
and then 223rd?
And then it would probably go clear to 223rd, although there's discussion about 215th and, coming from 169 and all. In my opinion, it's not a reality.
And going north, it would be 183rd?
Going north would be 183rd and then 175th.
Yeah.
That's correct.
But 183rd, 175th is only half miles.
Well, 175th is already.
Right, it's already there.
Yeah, so I mean,
So it depends on which way you're coming. If you
Exactly.
come down, it's 191st, otherwise
yes,
it's, if you're,
because 175th, you're not going to not have that major.
right.
I would imagine that right now what we're looking at is maybe 175th, 191st, and 199th. Because we already have 223rd that is fairly wide already, but it wouldn't be hard to imagine that could widen out fairly quickly, So this was an example as to why, why we would identify them now. And, resources could be spent on acquiring right-of-way. Or on the other side of it, Rhonda happens to be here with us tonight, thank you. On the other side of it is that there can be financial resources that, are you kidding me? Financial resources that could start being planned.
But before, I guess I'm cart before the horse. Are we, yes, we need to identify east-west. Don't disagree with that. But do we need to know what KDOT's gonna say before we say 100% this is what we want? I mean, what plan they
Okay,
come up
so-
with, would that matter to us?
No, I don't think it does, because you have already identified Woodland as a major arterial.
I understand that. I'm just
And
saying,
so your traffic flow from north-south, and it doesn't have to be Woodland, it could be over, we could actually extend Ridgeview down through Bridger and over and across.
right.
So overall, just looking at it, I would say that it doesn't really matter what the state says on and if we waited for the state, I mean, it probably would never get an idea.
So just
you know.
consider east-west
Mm-hmm.
and the highway going east and not consider what the highway would look like?
I would think that would be safe enough, because you're either going to have, well, we know there'll be signalization for a quote-unquote temporary time at 183rd. Most likely, you're going to end up with a entire overpass, on-ramps, off-ramps, that in conjunction would do something with the railroad tracks. Either go over them, most likely, in all one big sweep.
At 183rd.
Any of them,
Any.
183rd, 199th,
I just-
well, not 199th, 191st. There you go. No, yeah, you are correct. So I think that, I don't know, now it won't work, so heck with it. I'll try and get it back up there. But yes, I think that it is important that we look at this and say, okay, we're going to just say, and I know it's hard to drive down Woodland and say, oh, this is gonna be major, but the right of way's there. And we've been gathering right of way as all those buildings, that's why they sit back a ways. That's why it's industrial. on one side and then housing on the other. But all the right of ways acquired through there. So, you know, I would think that you would look from the tracks east and say, some way or another, we're gonna get over the tracks. Or they're gonna close them off. I mean, whatever, one of the two. And we're gonna have a major corridor north-south. And then from that point on, we see 199th, 191st, 183rd, and 180, or 175th as major. We know 175th will probably be before some of them. 223rd is not in bad shape already to be made into a major street right now. So that's why I was asking you if we can look at our east-west and say we really see 199th right now. And we can name all of them and say these are going to be our east-west connections. That's why I was bringing that up, so that we can make some, decisions on it, and future planning can, and you get a subdivision, let's say right there on 199th, across from Prairie Ridge. We're already working with them on large right-of-way areas, and luckily that developer's been pretty good about it. But he's like, well, why do I have to give up all this right-of-way? What is this road gonna be? But you can see, and a developer would come in, let's say on 191st, out in the middle of nowhere, out there, Ridgeview, let's use. And we say, hey, you have to give 60 foot of right-of-way. This is gonna be 120 foot across here. Well, at this point, we have really no teeth, It doesn't say it's a major arterial or a major collector, So that's all we're looking for.
So then what would you
Yes,
do with existing? Like if you're coming down, like if we say 207th, what would you do if with all of those subdivisions that are either there or expected to be there? If there's.
That right-of-way is acquired.
You've already done that?
Mhm,
Okay,
that
so it's
wa-
already intended as a
Yes.
major.
Now, as you go east, there's probably some houses that will be purchased and bulldozed, or, well, you can't hardly move them anymore, but you're seeing that on just the expansions that they're doing on 69 Highway. We've seen that in Olathe a lot, 119th, that whole area there. Back in 2000, I moved one of the duplexes from that area when you were still allowed to move stuff. Probably a lot of you don't even remember, there used to be a huge truck stop there. There was a movie theater there. And,
Where was it? 119th and what?
119th and I-35, basically. That whole area to
Big
the
truck
south.
stop, Big truck stop, big
Yes.
movie theater, outdoor movie theater.
Right.
Drive-in.
Drive through or drive in. So, we moved some of those duplexes to Gardner back then, when you could move stuff reasonably. And they still. Anyway, that's why we're asking to be able to put this on the comp plan as a planning tool.
So do you put it in as a planning tool for all the east-west that you can think of? Or do you prioritize which roads you would want first?
I think you put it in there, if you want, as all of them, and knowing that prioritization will be most likely 199th, and then whatever overchange comes first on the 169, then that becomes priority number 2. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's hard for us to, and most likely, I'm guessing, but it could be 183rd.
Right. I just was asking because I know with the
No, I
CIP,
understand.
it would be beneficial to know what direction.
Oh, that changes daily. No, that's what I was saying.
Got a long-
Finance needs to know as well, so. So what we can do, and it's up to you guys, but, you know, we can put all the ones that we listed. And, you know, that gives teeth in the planning to acquire some right of way. It also gives teeth for finance to acquire right of way, working with the county on some projects. The design of the intersections, you know, that will come later. But right-of-way widths and all are the important thing for subdivisions coming in. County, you know, they're doing some work. Apparently, they're gonna do some work down 199th or something, I heard. So they'll probably start acquiring some right-of-way. And they can take a look at the comp plan and say, this is a requirement of 80-foot right-of-way, 120-foot right-of-way. Those are typically what they are and for your major corridors. And if we're gonna acquire right-of-way, we're gonna acquire enough in accordance to the vision and comp plan of the Planning Commission of Spring Hill, Overland Park, Old Latham, everywhere.
So
I think that makes sense to put those items east and west.
And it comes back to you in form of the street plan, yes, Jim?
I was just gonna say that, you know, if you look at the map, like logically, 175th seems like I mean, it's an obvious major east-west corridor. And then, if you just look at them evenly spaced, then 199th is kind of the next, 3 miles to the south, and then 223rd is 3 miles south of 199th. And then you've got Highway 68, which is 7 miles further south. But I think 175th, 199th, and 223rd, as far as just geographically being evenly spaced through Spring Hill, would kind of logically be the ones where I would probably look to try to acquire the right of way.
Like 199th priority, or sorry, 175th, then 199th, 223.
Right, but as Pat said, if KDOT ends up doing something on 169 that, with an overpass that says, hey, actually 191st is now major, or 183rd is now major, because for whatever reason, if they're gonna do an overpass, to me, 175th is such a better candidate, because there's so much industrial development to the west, towards
Correct.
Gardner on 175th. And 175th is a couple miles closer to I-35 than 183rd is as well. But it all depends on the pattern of development, and in that case, probably mostly warehouse and industrial development.
Yeah, and then 191st is awful close to 199th, right? It's almost like too close, right? It's not even a mile,
Right,
it's like half a mile. So, yeah.
But if you go east, it has an access to the interstate.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, it just depends which direction you're looking at it.
Well, I think that I'm sorry.
do you mean west to the interstate?
Up, so yes.
I think obviously 199th, and not only 169 improvements, but remember the improvements that are being taken on 69. And so, you know, that already connects in, it's on-off ramps, you know, easy, I say easy to improve, nothing's easy, but you know.
Easy toll.
Easy toll if you guys wanna go that way, and so I told my kids, they live up there, I said, see how idiots you are. But
Passes now.
I mean, should we list like the others, like 191st, 183rd?
I think what Chuck said is our goal is maybe 175th, 199th, and 223rd. But realizing that, say, these others will be, you know, we can just use an 80-foot. So it's just an arterial. Or we could go minor arterial on those. But leave that open as to where we can still acquire right-of-way through there. And hopefully, by the time some subdivisions start going down through there, we have a pretty good idea of what the state's gonna do on 169, and that what our funding availabilities are, and what the county has maybe acquired. So maybe those three are major arterials. The others are listed as just an arterial, and with a slash, major or minor.
And you're talking the other 4, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, the other 3 would be,
Third, 9107 and 215 is what I wrote down.
yeah, well, 207th, but that's my question. Do you want to write 215th? I mean, that's South Street. And for anything to really go through there, look at the major destruction you'll be having to take on through the housing there.
Yeah.
Now that, there's,
And it doesn't cross the
I
railroad
wouldn't do
tracks.
that.
exactly.
Right, okay.
Is 207 even?
But 207th, you've got that jog
At dead ends.
going across to get back.
Well,
But
but
if
now
you- once
remember,
you-
we're
once you-
talking about railroad track to the east.
Correct. But I'm looking between Webster and 169 on 207th Street where you have that odd jog.
Right, yeah.
So it's just,
Yeah, no, I was just trying, because we're using Woodland is definitely an arterial.
right.
And we look the other direction, and then as you go to the north, we know that there are possibilities of exchanges at each one of those. Which one will come first, who knows? And then, but then you get to 215th, and there's an awful lot of stuff to acquire through there. And then 223rd's fairly simple, I would think, you know.
Well, then don't put 215 on, but make sure that 215 we're looking at for our sidewalks still.
Yeah,
Slide
Yeah.
slide that in there?
We'll just get right away.
That was good. I like
that will be under the sidewalk plan, which we are working on a new trail plan. No, what I was getting at is 215th would not be on there,
Yeah.
if you think that's reasonable. I mean,
And I think it's, 223rd is not far. away.
no, that's what I'm getting at, you know, it's not very far away, and
But on, if you define it as just an arterial road / major or minor, you would still be able to request enough right of way for sidewalks on any of those.
oh, yeah, well, and actually, what we would like, and we're bringing this as the next step, and I realize that, and I do apologize, a lot of this should have been talked out ahead of time, okay, but I will get this caught up, Amy and I will. Any type of arterial is going to have an alternate transportation, meaning 10-foot wide trail system beside it. So yes, the right-of-way also accommodates that. So we had some discussion on arterial transportation, and I don't know if many of you go to the city much or not, but you know, they're taking a lot of their streets that are wider, that are not major. They built them back in the day pretty wide, and they're taking an area of them, putting cones and making that a bike trail or a walking trail. People are tired of listening to me, it just went off. No. And what we're trying to do is not do that. You know, do a good separation.
Well, I think in the case of these major arterials, so 175th, 199th, 223rd,
Yes.
then you would just designate 183rd, 191st, 205th, whatever. And
Turn seconds, yeah.
those are the ones then that are more for the bicyclists, pedestrians.
And question on whether they're gonna be major or minor, or maybe just a major collector, you know.
And if you've ever ridden your bike on 175th, it's not enjoyable.
It is enjoyable for me having people ride on it, but, no, you're right. Well, most of the, streets in this area, it's very difficult, you know. We put up share the road down 199th, and I'm like, okay,
What road?
right, who the hell's gonna get hit first? Are we doing a head-on? Are we hitting the bicycle, or what are we gonna do, you know? To me, those signs were just damn silly. We spent a lot of money on that, and
I like it because it sends a message to drivers to, whether it works or not, but to put down your phone and be aware.
yeah, it just doesn't work. That's the problem. I mean, you know, it just, what I'd rather do is spend the money on true trail system.
Yeah,
No.
sure.
And we are going to start drawing some of that up and get going on it.
But it's also, in a way, it's kind of a stake, a literal stake in the ground for the community to say, we value, you know, cycling or pedestrians and other things. And so then as we develop a trail network over time, you know, those signs are, in a way, they'll
Cheap
soften-
talk, Chuck.
Yeah, well, and they'll
So
you're advertising to people a value of this community.
I
front,
would say
even if the
you
road
are
is
exactly correct if we were starting on trails.
Yeah.
And that's what we're gonna have to do is show a trail system, and really to tell you the truth, some of it's just, I'm just drawing a line on there and we can adjust it. But getting it in the critical areas, But yes, you're correct. We need to start sending the message that we really do want a good trail system
And ultimately to connect to Johnson County's trail system and the other cities. 'Cause it's
Exactly.
extensive.
And I would go farther than that, yes, that is always a great thing. But we have a very good asset that we could just do ourselves from our community to Hillsdale Lake. And I know there's a lot of people that continue to say, connect up north, and I don't disagree with that.
Excuse me.
But on the other hand, is it better to connect to an asset that we have for our people, and the people up north that want to ride here start working on connecting to us? But just a thought. But on the trail plan, we are showing connectivity up through there to Olathe and all that up there, Heritage, and because there's another little place right off of 191st that Olathe has a park that starts a trail system also that we noticed on the maps.
On 183rd?
It would be like 164th Street,
Oh,
clear up in
yeah,
there.
okay.
So,
Yeah, if they want to come from the north, they just need to bring their wallets and be ready to spend money.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe that.
Then we'll welcome.
Crazy, but we really could have a nice system in our community that goes to a nice area without really connecting north.
Yeah, and then it can be a destination too, though. They can still
Exactly.
come down and use it.
Yep, and we'll have parking lots to pay. Yeah, we got it figured out.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll get those drawn up and show that, designation on those streets, if that's okay with everyone.
Did the map that Josh drew a while ago, does it show those roads,
It,
majors?
it does, no, it doesn't show all of them.
I haven't seen that. Do you guys have that I can look at?
Yeah, well, there's a, what do you call that? Copyright fee that you have to pay, so, but, yes, we'll get it to you. We'll get it to you,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay, so then the rest of the comp plan on stuff, does anybody have any ideas on some of the other items that we talked about? Do we have anything?
I have a couple ideas real quick.
Perfect.
I know we got the 6 chapters, and I appreciate that. When do we get the rest of the comp plan?
I'm reviewing some of the draft that he has sent us.
Okay.
I can get that over to you.
I mean,
I just haven't seen it, so, yeah.
okay. I'm just kind of
Amy.
curious.
Yeah. Yep.
The second thing I had was, I know we had started talking about the land use map, at the last meeting,
Exactly, future land use.
the future land use map, yep. Have any of you guys been following Overland Park? They're working on their comprehensive plan right now. I don't know if any of you guys listened to their meeting, and I went to their website. I also I did a deep dive on Google. There's another city in Colorado, and I had printed some stuff, just some of their verbiage. They're going towards something that is more of a characteristic, I guess, land use map, if that makes sense. So instead of just saying, this is gonna be R1, this is gonna be commercial, it's more of, what do we want the character of this area to be? And then it does provide, and I don't know if I needed to give this to Amy or just talking maybe during the work session or something. It does give us a little more teeth, like if somebody comes to us and we're like, legally, yes, this fits criteria A, B, and C, so technically we need to vote yes on this, but it does not fit with this area in general, or that there's other ideas. I don't know if anybody else has looked into this at all, but I think that it's something that we should consider for our community. It sounds like, some of the community planners are starting to trend going this way with, the different market trends that are coming. I don't,
I think
I
that's a
wanna open the
great idea.
conversation if
If
anybody
you,
else is-
yeah, right, if you remember, we were talking about, you know, we've gone from square footages to lot sizes and all. And, Kat is correct, more of like,
can I read a paragraph?
sure, yes,
I mean,
please
I guess
do.
That way
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense.
And that way we
as to
know,
what I'm trying
right.
to Describe.
You bet.
Comes from Overland Parks. Historically, land development in Overland Park was guided by the future development plan map and corresponding comprehensive plan goals. The previously adopted future development plan map guided growth using an approach that designated land uses and densities to different developments in Overland Park. This approach was the most common way that suburban communities guided development for the last 30-plus years. Today, many communities are shifting from a focus on new development to infill, redevelopment, and are experiencing changing real estate market trends. They have found the previous approach to not be supportive of creating walkable, connected, sustainable, and vibrant places, largely because the previous approach does not guide the way places are designed or allow mixed use. It can result in developments that are not connected, do not support active modes of travel such as biking and walking, do not maximize development potential or public infrastructure capacity, and reduce opportunities for social interaction. As a result, the planning profession has evolved to consider land uses as part of a larger framework of places in communities with similar block patterns, building forms, street networks, and land uses called character types. This approach provided the following benefits. So then it goes on with the different benefits. I won't sit here and read.
Is
you
it
guys.
defined in character types?
It does too, and some of it that what we were talking about, and trying to figure out, you know, what direction you wanted to go, and Kat's exactly right, is, and, I mean, you're talking about like high density with commercial that has to be incorporated in it, correct?
Well,
and-
it's more mixed use. So
Yeah,
you
right,
have a
well, that
little
is,
shopping
that's a
center, but
mixed
then you'll have
use.
different
Yeah, where you
style
can't
housing.
just go apartments without some other mixed use in it.
I know I keep hearing from our community that they're wanting either some more retail or some more place. A lot of people want to start a business, but they're like, I'd have to buy land, I have to build the building.
Right.
If there's some little strip mallage that goes in, if there's going to be some multifamily housing or, does that make sense? Like, we're looking at the aesthetics and the character of each section, so it's not, all of a sudden we have this beautiful neighborhood and then there's an industrial thing right across the street 10 years later, that we've kind of planned out what this character of this area looks like. Right now, we're almost a patchwork quilt, right? Everything's kind of, nothing's connected and it's just, everything is everywhere. So
Well,
And-
you know, a good example of that was, you know, we approved that seniors living in
Yeah.
Garrett Ranch. And if the seniors aren't mobilely impaired, there's nowhere they can go
Correct.
eat if they wanna walk.
Correct?
Or even a place to grab
You know.
a few groceries, a loaf of
And that's
bread.
what he's talking about.
So they're basically isolated and all they can do is look at the cars and go by 169.
Right. And I think Kat is right on target. I think that's great that, you know, we would go through these different like high use or high density that you have to have commercial that, you know, is mixed use for that area. And then, you know, you get up into regular lots or the very low density, state lots and all. Maybe you're fine as long as there is a commercial area right there in that area.
One of the comp
So-
plans years back talked about it being walkability.
It's
And that's
still
pretty much, I mean,
some.
it's the same thing, but it's building the character of what you want to walk to according to the housing type that's in the neighborhood.
Right.
If you're gonna go towards young families, maybe we need to encourage a daycare facility there. If we're looking at the seniors, it would be great to have maybe a pharmacy or a bus stop that's gonna take them to Olathe Medical Center or something along those lines, in that type of a neighborhood.
And I think, yes, and I also think though that you are correct, we need to, ours says, well, maybe you can have a mixed use in this. I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, Kat, but I think it's getting to is you will have a mixed use in this.
Right.
Is that right, Kat?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
there's no question, you will have a mixed use within this.
I think one of the biggest
So-
things that I've read from these different neighborhoods, like this one's in Colorado, I read another one that was in Arizona. I mean, it's becoming a more popular trend, but
It only makes,
one of the themes that I've seen is the focus on design. So each area has its own literally character, right? This one says, like a rural single-family home does not have the same character as one located in a downtown neighborhood. The approach focuses more on the design of places and manifests the type of character that is intended for different parts of the community. So we
Right.
do have a very diverse town. It's not the same as Overland Park. It's not the same as Paola. It is very different and unique. So we have a lot of rural areas and we have a lot of
right, so if I can expand on that also is, if we go to this, you're gonna have to really have an open mind, which I think it's a great idea. I love to have different things. Meaning that if we come into an area that we say apartments with commercial, and we put that in, and the commercial is below the apartments, and they are only 3 foot away from the sidewalk, the parking and everything's in the back, but this is very aesthetically pleasing, stone, everything else. The setbacks and all are just thrown out the window. Now, you and I may not like that, but there's gonna be somebody that likes that. I know I've talked about small lots, and there's a lot of people that like small lots. So in looking at this in what type of design and what type of neighborhood, I think by softening our approach on maybe some setbacks and all that, but hardening our approach on mixed use and aesthetic values of it, I don't know. I don't know if that's what everybody's talking about or not.
An overlay district like you're talking about, though, could benefit those that don't want any yard work. If you put apartments or duplexes above that, you're fitting into that lifestyle of a generational
Right,
set
and
of
that's what
people
I'm
that
talking
like
about.
that.
Sure.
Especially if it's not going above a nighttime bar. If it's going atop a business that's open 8 to 5, or
All right.
it
They may like the bar too.
they might.
Seniors.
Seniors might really.
Seniors, that's right.
Just put a
They
trail.
get that sock hop going.
I think that's great.
is, I mean, is this any of this information stuff that I could send possibly to Amy to pass along, just
It's up
kind of
to
like
the,
for
yeah.
some reading? Cause
it's up to the
I'm
chairman.
I'm just starting to do some research on it, and it seems like there can be some good benefits. I don't know.
I'm very much in favor of passing it, having Amy pass it out to the rest of us. I think that's great.
That's what we'll do.
So I guess what I'm curious from what you're asking from us, Pat, is you're wanting us to send information to Amy for ideas, or you're just wanting to have discussion here about them?
Sure, I think that you need to get ready, because I don't believe that you're in the discussion, but I'm asking that we have a work session
Okay.
here in the next few weeks, if we could. And those ideas can be brought in, we can get the information out. I personally think that it's great, and having a member that brought it up, because I like to think outside the box. And, I just looked at something a few weeks ago, and you can look it up. It's, Black Apple Community in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Bentonville's neat.
And this is houses around a communal area, that connects to one, I guess Bentonville, I've been there, but I did not realize they had so many trails.
Mountain bike.
Okay, yeah, and it hooks to a biking trail, but this community, all they have is, they have some carports and a few car garages, but everything is owned by the Homes Association except only the house is owned by the property owner. And everything's communal, there's a YouTube video on it, but those are some things,
Co-locating?
That's beautiful.
it's called, just like
That's funky.
something, I'll think of it here in a little bit.
I think
But
it's co-locating.
co-communal or something. Pocket community, that's it.
It has 11 homes on
Exactly.
1 acre.
So you can see exactly, you can see what I'm saying.
11 on 1 acre.
11?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really thinking outside the box
They on top of each
and,
They're like,
They are.
and I spoke to, one of the developing partners about it. I just called the number and they're getting ready to start 6 more. They don't want to flood the area and it's in different areas. He said that those houses, and then there's another one they're working on right now. I think the website might say it, I don't remember. But those houses sold in days. Some people just want that.
Well, it's something I want to make
What
sure.
they're pulling up here is, I mean, it's 3 homes in this one picture, and they're totally different style homes.
Exactly.
It's,
I looked at the YouTube videos, what I looked at. And then I think they do actually maybe list some of their other subdivisions there, like farm something, I don't know. But anyway,
I have
it,
to look this up.
yeah,
Black-
it shows,
is it?
Black Apple.
it shows what we're really talking about is different areas, different type of homes, different concepts, and things like that.
So I think whenever I started reading this, something that I saw that was kind of nice was that when you're looking at the characteristic of, or a character of one section of our community, it does give the planning commission a little bit more teeth, I guess, to sink into versus just
That's what we
black and
need,
white
right.
criteria of check marks. Does it fit with this character? Is this area right here the right thing for this multi-use, or is it better for just residential, like single-family residential? Like, it does give you a little bit more
And
teeth
it-
to go off of, I guess.
And it would help the staff guide developers to those areas. You know,
So
Yes.
how does that get zoned? Would that be considered like an RP1 zoning? Because you've got very, very high density, but still single-family residences? So, it would be zoned RP1,
yes.
okay.
For something like what you're looking at, that
Right.
apple, black apple.
I'm just trying to, I'm
Yeah.
trying to grasp
Yeah.
how that fits in, because we can only approve what gets brought before us. But yet we can only work within the zoning we currently have, or do we have to create new zoning?
Yeah, we're gonna change, if we decide to change the scope of how we look at things, and we say, okay, it's,
Overland Park, actually, with theirs, they're moving theirs instead of like R1, RP1, they're actually moving it,
high
I do,
density.
but it's like housing one, housing two.
Exactly.
And some of them include like almost like a mixed use with it.
And an example.
Yeah, but I watched the meeting, but then I just started today, kind of reading through and pulling things out. So it's definitely a different way to look at it, but I think it also offers some flexibility instead of we rezone this as just R1 and that's exactly what has to be there, or it's just RP2 and that's the only thing that can go here.
No, I'm just trying to understand how we would incorporate that into our current system, because you can't just throw the system out and start all over. We have to continue to use what we have now.
And one of the examples would be, is Cindy talked about an overlay district, that's how it's written now, we would get rid of the overlay district. You know, it would be an acceptable design within this mixed use type. I think what you're gonna end up with is most everything's gonna be planned, which is great.
So that's our
And-
benefit.
Right, exactly, and we utilize these planned districts to our advantage. and also allowing the developers flexibility. You know, you're talking about the 11 houses on an acre or something like that?
That's what it said.
So I'll bet you a developer would be much more willing to have those all brick houses if he can get that density.
I just want to point out though that I think that's important that we try to preserve a lot of our natural
It,
large rural
It
lot
does,
areas
though.
and our country land, that we're not just focused on high density and how much we can pack in.
well, but that, it gives that flexibility. And that's what I'm saying. It also allows them not to have as much urban sprawl. Cause you're putting more on an existing interior piece of property with great aesthetic values, with shopping, blah, blah, blah.
This reminds me a lot about the conversations that
How cute is that?
the New Yorker that worked on our comp plan before talked about.
Yeah, might be.
I mean, it was that,
And I
that
think
whole
that.
walkability, connectivity.
And I think though that at that time, Cindy, I don't think that there were many members that were for that. You know, maybe the walkability
Right.
and all,
I think it was such
but
a
I
new
don't think
concept
that,
it
right,
was-
no,
it was
that's
too
what I'm
hard to
getting at.
grasp.
Yes,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm
and he
getting
was the
at.
one that suggested going back to alleyways to get the
Utilities in one location,
utilities
the,
and the trash pickup and all of that stuff off of the
your
street
street.
where you didn't need to see it and it was hidden.
Well, and you had streets of 40 foot, I mean, total right of way 40 foot
Right.
wide. You had 22 foot back to back curb streets. You know, there's a couple of developments that I was looking at in Overland Park, that, you know, their total right of way is 40 foot.
Yeah.
You know, and the streets are 22 foot. There's absolutely, I mean, you just go by each other and that's it. You know, there's no parking. The parking's in the back, and then the garages are in the back unless it's a side, corner lot. And I saw that had, but, they're working
But
on
he
a
was
plan.
that
right
whole
now.
walkability, bringing small communities back together, not just, you know, Spring Hill would be the community still, but it was bringing your small communities back together. Like the one that I see in here was, they had a fire pit area
Communal
for
area,
everybody.
that's right.
So it just reminds me of his conversations with
And I
us.
think
I
that-
don't think we were ready for it.
Yeah, well, and I think that, you know, where you're taking in an area and you have a lot of apartments and you have some single family on the edges or maybe some connected living and all, and they have all their shops and everything there, that's where those people are gonna be.
Right.
You know, my kids live up there, 135th and 69, and they don't care about going anywhere but 1 mile in their area, you know, cause everything's there.
Your description earlier, Pat, reminded me of Arbor Creek at 159th.
Yes.
And Merlin,
Okay,
where they've got some row houses
Where at?
That's
there.
beautiful.
159th and Merlin.
Oh, yeah.
But what's interesting about it is remember how long it took for the commercial sites to all be filled?
Filled in.
And then they've had a lot of turnover there in the last decade for whatever reason. But that's kind of what I envision when you're talking about mixed use and you've got row houses right next to the commercial and then you've got really small single family and then as it backs out, you get larger single
I
family.
think that's what you're
Beautiful
talking about,
streets.
Cat, wasn't it? You know, something similar to that.
And I'm not saying the entire town looks like that. I'm just thinking that could be, you know, as we're looking at characters in different areas, that could be very beneficial.
But that's again, where you could go in on that future land use map and pick out areas that would.
That's what we're
benefit.
talking about doing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you
That's-
could go in
I'm asking
And just say,
if that's,
we foresee this would be a senior area. We foresee this being,
right, because then the reason I brought it up, and I'm glad that Kat had research stuff already completed, made it easier on me, is if you remember, we were talking about possibly square footage designations in areas and all. And I went through that and it's so hard. And then I talked to a lot of developers and they came back and said, well, if you're gonna do designations, maybe you should do lot size designations. Well, then I get looking at that and that's tough. Where if we had designations like Kat's talking about, you know, there could be large lots right next to commercial. Or you could have the more, a lot more density to support the commercial and all. So, And I really do think that in being able to trade off some things instead of the stereotypical subdivisions, that we can possibly get developers and builders to have a greater aesthetic value. When you go down to Pittsburgh, Kansas, everything's brick. But you can't get a house built around here with brick, you know.
With what?
Brick,
Oh, brick.
yeah. And, you know, it's just tough. And maybe we can get some of that incorporated back in.
It's just something that I want to throw out there, that maybe before we keep talking about the comp plan and get too far in, that we could possibly look at.
Like
Oh,
that
something
idea
that-
in terms of land use.
So you were asking about a work session.
Yes, sir.
When were you thinking?
I left it up to the members.
So are you wanting to do it on a Thursday night? In
Uh,
what case, do you have?
It doesn't matter. Remember council,
Then you got the 16th or the 30th for this month.
right, so,
30th
if
is
you wanna
getting
use
into
this room.
weekend, into the,
So I'm just looking at.
no, I'm just saying, right? And isn't that getting into the Labor Day weekend or?
No, Labor Day, Memorial Day is May 25th.
27th,
27th, that's correct.
Yeah,
yes.
that works for me.
So does the 30th work for everyone?
It doesn't work for me.
Okay, do you wanna go, I mean, we can go 29th, 31st, you know, it's
I don't have.
whatever works for you guys. That's what I'm trying to do here.
So I guess the first question would be, do you want to try to do it on Thursday again, or does that?
It does not matter.
Okay. So then do you want to look at like a Wednesday or a Tuesday? Or a Monday? What,
Well, you couldn't do,
Does that not work? Because that's the city.
the 16th is a regional track meet at Springfield High
yes,
School.
it is.
Can't do that.
Well, I'm working at the track meet,
No,
so,
I hear you, I would.
Yeah, no, it's listed here as a track meet. You guys tell me.
so
That Wednesday?
I was
Bless you.
gonna say, what would the 15th look like?
My
It's a
husband's
Wednesday
birthday.
night,
I'm not
your
here.
birthday.
I'm
He can
not-
come. We'll have a birthday cake for him.
Yes, we will buy it.
On 15th, okay.
I also work late on Tuesday and Wednesday, so. I
Yeah,
need to
that-
Okay,
get
so
it off.
Tuesday, Wednesdays are out for you. So would a Monday night work better?
Yeah.
Or do you wanna try to stay on it? I mean, Thursday night's work, it's just we can't be in this room when the city council's.
We're not gonna hold it in this room.
I was gonna say, we can go to the
Okay, so where
cafeteria.
are we, so that will be the next question, where you wanna have it at?
It'll be in one of these rooms,
Okay.
not this room.
Not this room though.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Cause it's gonna be considered a work session, so we'll be.
That's correct.
Across the hall.
It's somewhere in this building.
Okay.
I don't know what's in it. We might be sitting in the gym,
Okay,
but it will not be in this room.
okay.
Put it on our phone.
But Amy said it will be catered.
Really?
And yes, we are gonna, we'll have cake for your husband's
Yeah.
birthday and, no, but we will,
margaritas.
we can have, well, that'll have to be out there somewhere.
On the exercise equipment.
Is June pushing it if we did?
I think we'll try to get it done before that, isn't that what you're saying, Pat, you want this month?
Well, we'd like to, that way I can get
What about the
better
17th?
direction on what you guys are talking about.
17th is a Friday though, right?
Yeah,
Okay. I'm just double checking in my head.
Monday, the 14th.
I left my
Yeah,
phone, so I'm
Monday the
I'm at
13th.
mercy here.
13th,
Or 13th.
Yeah, Monday's the
would
13th.
that work?
That works for me.
It's fine
I'll
with
be out
me.
of town on the 13th.
So the 14th, you work late, Debbie?
Well, I mean, if I can walk in late,
How about the
Yeah.
20th?
Oh, yeah, it's a work
Monday the
session.
Oh, never mind, I'm out. Forget that. Sorry.
You suggested. and
Sorry,
you're gonna be here.
I'm just looking at Mondays.
Yeah, I was gonna say Sunday at noon, maybe.
Fine. I'll be here.
So I'm back to the
Unless
30th.
it's-
Well, what about a
What is-
Saturday?
I can
That's-
do the 30th.
I can do it.
30th?
I can't do it, but it's.
I may not be able to do it.
30th?
I won't know until the 30th, unfortunately.
What about the 31st?
So what, so not trying to cut Debbie out, but if you could come late on a Tuesday or Wednesday,
Uh-huh.
then that brings it, that gives us a lot more options.
The 14th?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, but you're saying that it would be, you'd be working
If
late,
it's,
so.
well, I work late and late for me is like 6:30.
Okay.
So that's late.
Okay.
So, but then by the time I like walk out of my office and all that stuff, it's like 6:45, so it's like maybe 7:15.
You know,
His
that's,
birthday's the
yeah.
15th?
Yeah, his,
And
What about
we'll-
the 14th?
I'm fine. So you're just talking next week, or no, that's in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I have something scheduled that night, but that I can.
Yeah, he's good.
That's not, it's not vital that I have to be there. So what about the 14th? Does that work? No?
No.
Yes?
I have no life, I'm good, so.
What?
That's that I have no life, I'm busy.
Okay,
Hard no for me.
hard no for you.
Why, when was Thursday the 16th? Oh, track meet?
Yes, that's the Spring Hill Regional Track Meet.
30th.
Go
So
back to that Monday, the 12th.
that would be Sunday, the 12th.
Oh, sorry, 13th.
Monday the
Monday.
13th.
I mean,
Mother's
you can
Day,
do
too.
the,
Happy Mother's Day.
Oh, that's wedding. We have weddings 2 weekends in a row here.
What about the 20th? The next week,
20th?
the next Monday.
what is the 20th? What
It's a
day?
Monday night.
I have to look at my calendar.
Yeah, I'm lost without my calendar. I don't have my phone. I'm sorry. I'm out.
I'm out that whole week.
No,
Okay,
20th.
Fine.
good until after the 24th.
okay, now it's.
20th?
I'm exploring
Oh.
mixed uses in Florida
So-
that week.
Well, what about May 29th then?
Yes.
That's a Wednesday night.
Good for me.
I could probably do that.
Do I do that? Okay.
I'm sorry,
I'm not
it's
trying to-
actually, it's like, it's a big, huge, I have a big, huge trial to go to.
Okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that week, so.
Okay,
It's a sorry day, everybody.
29th?
yes,
Yeah,
maybe.
yes, I'll make it work.
Okay. So, just from what I'm saying, so the only person that it conflicts with is you. And I'm not trying to,
It's fine.
I'm not
Yeah,
trying to exclude you out, I'm just trying to get,
Well, and it may depend on how that day goes.
Yeah,
okay,
Where are we at?
the 29th.
29th,
The
okay.
29th. Would one time help you, Debbie, or not?
I'm taking all the whole days off, so
Okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
not
I'm
sure I
completely
can
off of
make
work.
it either. I have to check.
Okay, so let's pick 2 nights then, and do tentative, and then we can work it out with Amy, is that fair, Amy?
Well, go the 29th, and then go back
And
that,
then pick another day.
and go back the week before that on that.
Which would be the 22nd, big trash day here in Spring Hill.
Or that was the month, oh, Chuck's out that month.
I'm out that week, but that's fine.
Right, so that week was out, that's why I didn't.
Just for me.
Okay.
So then if you go back to like the 15th, which is also a challenge for you, I know, because with your husband's birthday, and you guys are both out then,
I can make it work. I have a fall festival meeting that night,
okay.
but I can come back.
So then,
They can live without you that night.
I know.
do you wanna try to go back to next week?
I'm open. You guys set a day and I'll put it on here and I'll,
You didn't wanna do next week, though? Or-
So
right.
next week, so if we do it like on the 8th, which is a Wednesday night,
Good for me.
I can do the 8th.
It's RJ's birthday.
is that next week?
yes, next Wednesday would be the 8th.
I'll
That'll be
check,
right between both weddings, so I can make
You can
make
make that?
Wednesday.
Next Wednesday?
That-
Wednesday the 8th.
Wednesday.
why not Tuesday the 7th?
I'll be there close to 7:30
Should
if
be
that's
able to.
I have
okay,
a
but
conflict.
I'll be there.
Oh, you have a con.
Yeah, the Johnson County Academy, Citizens Academy is Tuesdays, but it ends on the
Okay.
14th.
Okay, so how about the dates of the 8th and the 29th?
Both are out for me, but it's okay, it just sounds like I'm not supposed to be here.
Can we zoom you
That sounds
in?
like Clint is supposed to be here.
What's that?
Can we zoom you in?
I mean, honestly, no, I mean, well, no, definitely not, if we're saying the 8th, I mean, we're gonna be at a Mexican restaurant, I'll just
Oh.
be honest with you. It's my son's birthday, we
makes
love
sense.
birthdays, so. And then the 29th, I might, yeah.
You don't know what
no.
That doesn't, neither one of those work for you. So what about Friday the 10th?
That's fine.
Okay, you can't be there? I'm trying to get as many people there as I can, is what I'm looking at. You can't do that then either,
I don't think Pat's available on the 10th.
okay. Okay,
I'll be in.
It's hard to get everybody.
I'm going
Yeah.
with you.
It's true, and we don't know anything about Mary or Josh.
right.
Yeah.
Mary's open.
Okay.
Mary said she has no life.
I have no life, so
Okay.
I just,
Just tell me.
So
What's
Debbie,
Monday
I'm really
the
not trying to
6th?
pick on you.
No,
What's
it's
Monday the
okay.
6th or 7th?
These guys can't, you said you
Oh, I
could.
can do it the 6th.
Sixth.
or the
You
7th.
said the
okay.
6th and 7th.
Sixth,
You said
okay.
that you're okay on the 6th,
Okay,
which is like 4 days from today.
yeah,
It's the day after the wedding. I'm not guaranteeing
Okay,
what mental capacity I'll be in.
yeah, next Monday.
Monday.
Everybody's good?
I should be able to.
I'm helping with the golf tournament, but
Yeah, I'm
I was
good.
gonna, I have,
It is Cinco de Mayo the day before.
I do have something.
Honey, it's my son's wedding day.
At least it isn't Mother's Day.
I cannot be there, but I don't have to be I don't have to be there, so.
On the
On the sixth,
Oh.
yes.
You can't, 6 work?
What? I can't make it on the sixth.
If this,
I'm just saying, I can't make it on the sixth. I can do the seventh.
The high school choir pop
Concert.
concerts that night, but you guys can
What?
still meet without me.
I don't know about the school stuff, I get.
Okay, so,
We need your husband here to auctioneer this.
Yeah, no, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
That'd be awesome.
Wes is almost there.
Yeah, he is.
Should we look at first week of June?
No, we can't keep going that
No,
far.
we-
That's why I said even go 6 or 7.
Okay, everyone already said that the 9th and 10th are out, right?
Well, but here's the thing, if we go 6 or 7,
well, the ninth is city council meeting.
That's right.
if we can make 6 or 7 and you have to get something else in, then you can still go 28 or 29. That night, we can still go, okay, we gotta have another night, this took us way too long.
Right.
Versus if we only plan for the 29th, then we're gonna be shooting this thing back into June and July.
Right.
Especially with summer schedules.
Yeah. Okay,
That's the
so,
negative.
so let me back up. How many people can make it on the sixth?
I'll make it.
Or let me rephrase that. How many people cannot make it on the sixth?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure, okay? How about the seventh? How many people cannot make it on the seventh?
I'll just be late,
So we have 2 people on the seventh,
like 7-ish, like I can't make it at 6, but.
okay? So we were looking at the sixth, seventh, and then we were looking at the 29th and 30th. How many people cannot make it on the 29th? You said you couldn't. And how many people can make it on the 30th? Okay, so let's go with the sixth and the 29th.
2 work sessions, is that what you're
Well,
saying?
we're, the
We would
29th,
prefer the 6th.
Okay,
And if the 6th leads us into another one, the backup would be the 29th.
so am I
Can I ask you to-
checking with, the others? to
Yes.
see- Okay.
please,
Troy, are you the only one missing the 16th?
The 6th.
the sixth.
I know, but if it was the 16th, which is.
I can do the
which is
16th.
I thought you couldn't because of track meet.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Are you the only
16th, I
one?
can't. Am I the only one that can't be on the 16th? I think somebody else said that they couldn't. You can't do the
So you got
16th?
your kid- You're not high school though.
What's that?
You're not high school, right?
No, he's not high school.
There were 2 of us that were on the
Okay.
16th, so.
Did you have the track meet? I heard somebody else say something too.
Amy, 16's a possibility too.
So are we looking at, is there a certain time? Can you guys do 6 or does it need to be 7? Just so I know when I send
Split it, do 6:30.
6:30.
6:30?
I'll just come late.
Is it- Can you come?
Yeah, I mean, if it's on a Thursday, I can do 6:30,
Okay.
but
And the 16th, you said?
Wait, so do we still have one on the 6th?
6.
The 6th,
6th at what time?
I can still do it.
6:30.
6:30, okay. Are we doing one on
So we're
the
definitely doing
16th
that.
also?
I think so. I
Maybe.
think
Where-
we're waiting on Josh.
Okay,
Okay.
But yeah.
And what was the other one?
and then was the 29th?
Okay, at 6:30 also. Okay,
So is it for sure the 6th?
I think go for it.
sure,
Yeah.
yes.
We have a motion?
At 6:30?
I don't think we have
Yes.
a motion for that. We can take a vote on it if you want. I mean, but
I don't think we.
we're just doing a work session. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
So the 6th at 6:30 and then tentatively the 29th at 6:30, depending on whether we need it or not.
Okay.
Then wait, what's the 16th then?
Are we taking the 16th off then? Or are we leaving it on? I am too.
I'll need a blonde in there. 'cause You're throwing out the.
I'm always hot.
We'll wait for you.
Because
Amy
I'm
to
not
email
here.
us.
Amy,
Hey
just
Pat,
text me
floor's yours.
to remind me to be there.
What?
So just text me.
I will.
Yeah.
Okay, so
No,
I'll
it's all right, about this.
sure,
Yes.
and then
I need to pee.
just have everybody think
Oh
about
my
the
God.
16th or the 20th.
Yeah, you're gonna be,
From 8
Sounds
to
good.
8 to 1.
you're gonna be
8 years old to 1-year-old.
totally beat. 8-1, wow.
For what? 8 to 1?
Okay, Pat.
My bonus son's getting married on we have 6 grandkids.
Moving on to
from
reports.
age 8 to 1, spending the night with us.
No
after.
reports?
Oh, see, I'm not.
Item number 3, number 6.
Sure, I'll be any middle
For
school.
individual members or
No,
staff?
they're wrong. So
This is staff.
Okay.
Final plat for Fountains of Wolf Creek Pass and Garrett Ranch second was approved by the city council.
Okay. And then announcements from planning commission, or any of the other reports? Moving on to announcements from planning commissioners and staff, that would be.
May I? It's maybe more of a request. I'm not the only one, but it's 80 degrees in here. Is there any way, like, before the planning commission meetings, it could, like, be lowered to something?
Yeah, cause I mean, us too, we're gonna look into it.
I just have to turn it down, and I forgot, so. There's nothing to look into. Turn it down.
I was gonna say it's the zone.
Down in here, it freezes everybody
Yeah.
working in
Yeah.
there. I have the same problem in my office,
Yep.
to make it comfortable in the conference room, it has to be freezing in my office, so it's,
I will donate blankets.
when I'm in here, I need a blanket, so I appreciate it.
So yes, to answer your question, Debbie.
Quiet fans.
Well, how many people are working after?
Talk to the guy that knows how to fix this place.
It's on me, I just forgot, I normally turn it down.
Okay, anything else?
I've got
comfortable.
just one, just a couple of comments. So thanks to Rodolfo, I've been attending this program called the Johnson County Citizens Academy, and you are all eligible to sign up for it. It's a fantastic program, about a 14-week program. We meet on Tuesday nights, and you get to learn about and visit practically every function of county government and hear from the leader of that function. So it's very, very informative. This week it was the head of Johnson County Parks and Recreation, and they have like a $90 million budget, annual budget. It's remarkable in all the infrastructure. But one of the things that the part about it I wanted to share with you guys is the Parks and Rec Department. They use the word legacy a lot because, you know, in acquiring land and developing parks, it's all about what legacy are we going to leave for future generations. And, you know, I grew up right next to Antioch Park. And so I guess Antioch Park was the first Johnson County park in 1955. And I literally spent my whole childhood in Dodgetown, which was the made up Wild West, you know, vignette in that park. It was neat seeing those old pictures. But so, you know, the folks in 1955, you know, left something for me to enjoy, you know, as a kid and to grow up in. And I view our roles here on the planning commission being all about legacy, because we live in an area where this is an area of green space, greenfield development, so it's all new, and this is our first shot. And whatever we decide through the comp plan and through individual proposals that will be here, I mean, that's gonna be the nature and the character of our community for a generation. And so that's what excites me about being able to serve with you guys, is because I feel like this is a role, even though it's been described as a thankless job, it's something where I think, you know, we each have the opportunity to make a positive difference, you know, on the face of this community for literally for a generation or longer. And then I wanted to mention the Olathe Historical Society. So if you go on YouTube, search for Olathe Historical Society, and you'll see some videos that they've put up. And there's one called, it's a 9-minute video, it's worth watching, called Then and Now, Urban Renewal and the Destruction of Olathe. And it's really fascinating about how Olathe lost all of its historical buildings in the late 60s and 70s through urban renewal, where they just razed them. And without realizing it, Olathe just destroyed what made its community unique while they were trying to be more like Overland Park. And they unsuccessfully tried to you know, change the character of their community to be more like Overland Park, when really they shouldn't have ever done that, because they're not Overland Park. And so this was, you know, in the 60s, they felt like that was their competition. And so I encourage you to watch it. It was a reminder to me to think about what we want to be, you know, uniquely, to protect, preserve, or build what, you know, we think Spring Hill should be, and not try to be someone else. That's all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep, we've already lost a couple buildings in town that would have been nice to have held on to, and that's,
Any other announcements? Staff, any announcements? Entertain a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Welcome.